Hello, everybody. This is Koby Phillips, the VP of Cloud and Managed Services here at Telarus. And today I am joined by Cyxtera Field CTO, Holland Barry. Welcome, Holland. How you doing?
Hey, Kobe, doing great. Thanks for having me on.
So, Holland, I really want to dive into what's going on at Cyxtera and talking to you and your team the last few weeks. There's a lot of different products and solutions that you guys are bringing to the table. I would really want to dive into where you're seeing that potential impact for end users and our technology as advisors, how to position those, and what's going to drive those conversations through. So, first of all, congratulations. I know you guys have had a great year in sales. As far as everybody else in the data center space, it's been tremendous. What are you seeing driving that to maybe kind of kickstart the conversation here?
Absolutely. Well, just to kind of level set for folks who might not be familiar with us, we're a global data center platform. We specialize in co-location foundationally. We also are a world leader in interconnection and digital infrastructure, got about 2,300 customers globally across most of the top markets around the world. And I think there's a few things driving the success that we've seen here in 2023, and we anticipate that going well into 2024 and beyond. And I think a lot of it has to do with the rise of a certain class of workload that has manifest in the public cloud, and also the rise of people questioning how worth it is to have their own on-prem data center, right? So we're seeing people closing down their data centers, exiting those DCs. We're seeing a lot of people do tech refresh and wondering, hey, when we have this gear that's up for renewal, do we want to spend the CapEx on that, or might we go somewhere else, and do we want that to reside in our own data center? On the other side, we see people, especially over the pandemic, they may have overcorrected into public cloud. The spending there has gotten a little bit more aggressive than they anticipated. So now they're going through a recalibration exercise, saying, what can we selectively pull back, put in a private setting, and not only save time, but also gain a lot of performance advantages and certainly some security advantages as well.
Yeah, no, and sometimes, I've had partners and clients who say, well, these are the same conversations that have been ongoing for 2, 3, 4 years. And a lot of companies had, like you said, went into the public clouds or tossed too much in there. And now they were trying to, right size the workloads. Where do they go? Utilizing companies like Cyxtera and others. But then there was a little bit of an interruption, right? You had a big disruption in the world, and now we're seeing companies pick back up on those motions. Right as the collision course coming along with that, you said the workloads that are happening. In particular, what are you seeing certain technology platforms are taking hold of a lot of the data center space, right? So we'll just kind of clear it up and say AI companies, AI-driven companies have come in and really migrated and built out their infrastructure in a lot of these data centers that you guys own and operate. And what are you seeing that do to the market demand for these other clients that are coming in that are looking for the space and to offload their on-prem equipment into a data center location?
Yeah, it's certainly constrained certain markets, and not everyone is going to have these, I'm going to say, exotic requirements in terms of needing a lot of power, these very high density rack designs in terms of power and cooling requirements. So it's been one of the drivers of our success. But I'd say that there's still the enterprise class workload that doesn't fit in an AI or high performance compute category, where there's other attributes that are driving the consumption of our data center services. And that's going to be things like applications with high centers of data gravity, right? You don't want that stuff growing in the public cloud because the egress fees will kill you on the way out if you ever want to move. Things with just a high utilization profile. You've got compute that's maybe pinned at redline all the time from a CPU usage perspective. You got a lot of API calls. There's all those things. So when performance matters, when you're really trying to optimize for cost at scale, and you have a workload that has a predictable usage pattern that's going to grow over time, that's a perfect time to reflect and say, hey, maybe, especially if you're in public cloud or running that application on aging infrastructure, we become a really attractive option. And I'd say we're always piece of a much broader strategy. What we're noticing a lot of our customers deploy into is what people are calling a multi-hybrid model, where you're selectively using different workload venues that fits that application perfectly. So we all use SaaS services. We even use a lot of public cloud services, especially for experimental and seasonal things. Perfect to go do that up in public cloud. But for that steady state, enterprise grade, maybe highly regulated type of workload, that's when we start having conversations coming with us. So certainly there's AI applications that fit that mold too, But there's definitely a lot of kind of tailwinds for the consumption of our services.
Yeah, I think those are all really great points that you've made there around some of the architecture that we're seeing take place across multiple different verticals, different market segments as well. This idea of hybrid really started off in the enterprise, like most things. It's now trickled down into that mid-market, small enterprise space more and more, where we're seeing a lot of opportunity for partners to come in. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Is really around those are the companies that we have the most success at, mid-market, small enterprise, but they don't have the resources or skill set to really go in and operate or build these things out. What are some of the other products that Cyxtera has put into play that can help scale quickly and add even more layers of infrastructure into that hybrid model and that conversation outside of just cloud or prem? There's a little bit of a middle ground there, and that's something you've come to market with as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think thematically, just at the very top, when we are talking to prospects or current customers and saying, hey, can come consume a service for us and our platform at large, it's incumbent upon us to make our services as easy as possible to consume, as especially if someone's coming from a public cloud environment, right? Yeah, they're expecting PaaS services, they're expecting, to be able to delegate the core networking at times. Certainly, they don't think if you're in the public cloud, you're not thinking about anything related to the facility. So we need to make that stuff as opaque as possible and let people get to the job of running their workload. So there's always this theme of delegation and how much people want to delegate to us. And we have various degrees of delegation depending on the type of service you want. So foundationally, co-location, you've delegated the facilities to us, the interconnection, the cooling, the security, all of those things, right? The power, we've got smart hands that can help swap out a drive or replace a processor if it goes out. So we got you covered at that foundational level. But the platform that we've built within the facilities and the ecosystem that supports it, that's when things start to get really interesting. Those are further levels of delegation. So if you want to rent a bare metal compute node for a month, or you want to subscribe to a terabyte of storage, file, object, or block, it doesn't matter. If you need a security service, if you need to get connectivity up to public cloud programmatically and have that provisioned, in a minute, get access to the internet, little things like that. Those are all things that you can go into our command center, which is global, works the same across every single one of our data centers, and consume not only data center services, but also kind of what feels like private cloud services, compute, networking, and storage. So you can build programmatically a home for your application and not spend any CapEx on infrastructure, and maybe not have to burden your team with having to set up servers and program networks and things like that. And then we have a wonderful ecosystem, people doing infrastructure as a service, SaaS, PaaS services to further that delegation, to pull in all those ingredients, again, to build a cozy home for your application. So that's what you get when you deploy inside of our four walls. And that's what makes us a little bit different as a co-location provider, because we have those value-added services built within the facilities.
Again, fantastic points. And I think the story that our partners can tell and highlight when they're talking to clients is really how to think about things a little bit differently. When you're looking at, going into a data center, what are the other things, like you said, what are the other value adds that data center provider can actually bring to the table? I love the bare metal conversation. There's so many use cases to that. That quickly spin it up, like you said, it has a private cloud feel, but you're in more control of what you're doing on it. So if you got a customer that has really strong internal teams and they like to handle things themselves, it's a great alternative to them having to rack and stack and manage the gear. They can just spin it up quick. If they're going into a market that's a new market and it's something they need to do quickly, or they're just wanting to test the waters like we talked about earlier, it's another way to do that and not have to go into the public cloud. There's a lot of advantages that you've laid out for these solutions that Cyxtera has created for your clients and for our partners to then position. As they think about this, what are some closing thoughts that you might have for partners to know how to position, or things to look for when they're in conversations with clients on what to do to drive that conversation forward?
Absolutely. Well, before we move into that, just a quick note on our bare metal, because I'm glad you brought it up. It is a pretty unique offering in the sense of how we deliver it. So, it's an OpEx monthly payment model, just like you'd expect in a public cloud environment. But where we're a little bit different is the way that we've architected our network and the manner in which we give you access to the infrastructure. So we give you full control over that compute node as if you bought it. We give you access to the BIOS or the lights out board. You can bring your own operating system, and you can operate it on a series of private networks that you control and own and no one else has access to. So a little bit different than a typical bare metal cloud where it can be a shared space. There might be people monitoring it. There's a little bit less access to the infrastructure. So a key differentiator as your partners are out talking about, where the right fit for a certain workload is, this is a highly secure environment and a highly performant environment. So how do you get into these conversations? And we touched on it a little bit up top. I think there's a few key drivers where we're seeing people being really open to having these conversations, and it's where we've seen a lot of success. And I'm going to say tech refresh is by and far the largest one, right? You've reached an inflection point with aging gear, whether it's in our data center, one of our competitors' data centers, whether it's in your garage or at your campus HQ. You've got to buy new gear. Do you want to do that? And is that the right spot for it? That's when we start talking about, well, what might that look like in a Cyxtera facility? The other one is people looking to recalibrate those workloads that they've deployed up in public cloud. We see cost as being the #1 driver. So if you hear in an engagement that someone has some concerns about their public cloud spend, that's a really nice time to open up a conversation about, hey, did you know? And in fact, we've made a really nice TCO tool that allows you to sit down with the client, understand their cloud spend, input the specifics of their environment, and then map it back to what that might look like in Cyxtera. And typically we're going to see around a 30% savings versus what the spend is in public cloud coming back to us. So not only do you get that full single tenant performance with us, but you also get to save some money in the bank. And so that's really nice. So tech refresh, coming out of public cloud, and then that DC exit. People have their own data centers. There's a saying in the industry, friends don't let friends build data centers. So as you're thinking about maybe, that data IT closet that's hooked to your headquarters, or your full-blown data center, a lot of people are saying we don't want to be in that business anymore. Delegate that to us. That's what we do all day long. Bring that infrastructure to us. And so whether that's a get out of the data center mandate or that's a refresh a lot of the gear that's in there, we become a really fun option to talk about, hey, this is what this looks like here. And here's the savings you're going to realize. And a lot of that savings too is just manpower, less of your team's time dealing with the plumbing and the masonry associated with the facility. Leave that to us, and you can do higher value add work for your organization.
Yeah, I love that. The idea of adding additional value to kind of that soft cost that's not factored in the monthly savings or cost holistically, right? So what I'm hearing out of what you just laid out is any type of conversation around hardware refreshes or any public cloud or company that's simply running their own data center now, which is all of these things, depending on the reports you look at, Cyxtera, Gartner reports, Forrester, these are all top level initiatives by companies when it comes to their cloud migration strategies or their tech strategies. How do I get better at this? How do I understand where to put my applications and workloads? So just like we do with everything else, and now I'm talking to our partners, right? What we do with everything here is take some of these talking points that Holland's brought up that you've heard here today and turn them into talk tracks and bring those into conversations. That's going to be the action item for you guys to go and kickstart a lot of this. As you guys uncover these opportunities, Cyxtera has a tremendous field sales alignment for the channel and our partners. Holland leading the solutions team as their field CTO and then into their engineering. So you're going to have plenty of technical support and alignment there when it comes to how to position Cyxtera and drive that sell through with your clients. Holland, I couldn't thank you more for joining us, and I appreciate all the insight that you brought to us today on what's going on with Cyxtera and how to position the conversation for our partners.
Koby, thanks for having me, man. This was fun. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. Thank you again. And guys, look for more product releases and more information on Cyxtera as more solutions come out. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Telarus is always here to help you and accelerate your business any way we can. Have a great rest of your day.